Excellent. Thank you so much, Leonor, for these introductory words. I'm going to share my screen real quick. So good morning from Oakland, California. I've already been introduced, so I'm just going to dive into it to talk about the interplay of human and artificial creativity and explore some new avenues for the future of work that I find inspiring in my daily work reality. I'd like to set the tone with a recent study from the Stanford Center for Longevity that kind of is a perfect segue from Anya's talk into her last thought here. The quote is, of course, over the course of 100-year lives, we can expect to work 60 years or more. So setting the tone for that really illustrates that we want to fill those 60 years with meaningful, purpose-driven tasks. But clearly, the question of this symposium is, what does it even mean? The study also concludes very dimly that we're not at all prepared for this shift as societies globally. So again, the central question of the symposium, as I understand it, is how to best prepare for the seismic shift in our approach to work, induced primarily through advances in automation, be it robotics or AI. There's always this question lingering at the back of our minds: what is a future-proof skill? What is a future-proof profession? And kind of we're driven by these considerations and also anxieties and fears. To me, the most important question is, how do we need to reform our educational systems in order to really ramp up to that shift? So there's a lot of speculation around these questions, especially here in Silicon Valley and especially among the transhumanists. So this is really, really fascinating, but for another discussion. Much has been said about the value of fostering creativity in young kids and adults. And I can only subscribe to that statement because the future of work is obviously creative. According to Steelcase research, 83% of people say that they're asked to be creative at work, either daily or weekly. And that is honestly really great news, because every human has an innate capability to be creative to various degrees, that is. So creativity, we know, is the fuel for innovation. It generates ideas, it helps us solve problems, and it exploits new opportunities. However, what the staggering number also illustrates is, and clearly that's a survey from 2017, that the present of work is creative. So this is not really an outline of the future, but rather the status quo. This is the reality that we already inhabit. So I want to go one step further and pose the following statement: that the future of work is artistic. We've established that moving forward, we're most likely going to be interfacing with technology even more frequently than we already are. So algorithms are already dominating every aspect of our life, dictating our consumer behaviors and influencing our habits, desires, and ideas. But as most futurists can say very confidently, to get the most out of an algorithm, you do need to ask the right questions. And for that, you need a curious and inquisitive mind. Again, curiosity being the foundation of all creativity. I want to quote Natalia Nixon in her new book, The Creativity Leap, which outlines that soft skills, especially creative and critical thinking, might just be what the doctor ordered in order to optimize our engagement with technology, to maximize its positive impact, and to mitigate and prevent its harmful consequences. So here, real quick, in this brief keynote presentation, I'd like to introduce 4 skills, key skills that explain why training in the arts will be most critical resource to develop in this new paradigm of the future of work. And I can assure you that much, AI will struggle to catch up with those skills for a long time. So let's get started real quick. First one, I already touched on that: curiosity. Curiosity sparks creativity, which is the bedrock of innovation. So all artists are trained and educated in being curious. It's fundamentally about cultivating your ability to see what is there, but most importantly, to see what is missing. So I've come to understand this as, in my experience, as a skill to learn to perceive reality through the cracks and crevices. In our profession, we call this the negative space, and to fill that space, an artist observes and listens, which clearly helps to ramp up also their emotional intelligence. The next skill would be abstract thinking. Every artist is trained Well, every artistic training requires that you learn a new language of expression that codifies your reality, be it a music score, a choreography, you name it. But you learn to abstract from the obvious, knowing that what's in front of you rarely or never represents the entire picture of reality. Reality clearly only being seen as a fragmentation, as a mosaic. So independently of your artistic medium, art distills the essence of reality. And since an artist already operates in this codified language expressed through symbols and signifiers, this clearly overlaps very much with the coded language of technology. Next skill would be cultural fluency. So an essential part of the artistic practice is to seek out inspiration from everyone and everything. The future of work will require us to look beyond our own horizons, to span the boundaries of our own deep specializations and our limited and limiting socializations. And this cultural fluency means that artists learn to be open to thought diversity. They're trained to develop a holistic understanding of the human being. And that's a critical skill that will help us preserve what is preservable of the human being in the age of AI. Then there's, of course, the understanding to value process over outcome. And this conviction is clearly at the heart of art thinking, which is also the mantra of Grasp. The nature of the artistic process is to be driven by process and not get distracted by your tunnel vision, by your KPI, or by this drive to find a singular solution. And this is actually how you stumble about something genuinely new, something unexpected and ultimately unprecedented. And this is how you explore new terrain, which leads us to the last and probably most important future-proof skill, vision. Artists do develop audacious visions from an absolutely unique point of view. The future of work will require us to think differently, to think outside the box, to approach a problem from different angles, to be inquisitive about it, because automated processes, as we know, will be very easily replaced. And genuine vision cannot be replicated. And with that, I'm here to present our work at the lab, which is, so to speak, one way to equip us for the path of the future of work, for this paradigm shift. This is a path that we pursue at the Open Austria Art and Tech Lab in Silicon Valley in its adjacent, very successful EU project, The Grid. So the central question of our lab is to explore what it means to be human in the age of AI. And real quick, a background, we were founded in October 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. It is conceived as a laboratory for open and interdisciplinary collaboration between artists, technologists, also policymakers, thinkers, philosophers. We do this in concert with Austria's efforts in tech diplomacy, where we work together with policymakers from Europe and the US to advocate what is now known as a new digital humanism in tech, a little bit of an answer to the transhumanist tendencies in Silicon Valley. Also something very interesting, we're also a lab for a new way to engage with local arts communities. So a new way to pilot cultural diplomacy and cultural relations. Our underlying philosophy is that all of our projects are driven by art thinking, so to speak, that we try to introduce open experimentation in everything we do that allows us to invent point B rather than just establishing a process where we have a specific outcome in mind. And with the key artistic skills in mind that I just presented, we advocate that it is imperative to incorporate artists in tech development processes. We truly believe that artists in their capacity as futurists and storytellers are best equipped to identify, but also to promulgate both the potential and pitfalls of frontier technologies. And I'd like to give you one example that was highly publicized, was reviewed in every single German-speaking medium for half a year. It is this project called AI Storytelling by the renowned author Daniel Kehlmann and AI researcher Brian McKen. So Brian McKen had designed a new language model, also called NLP, Natural Language Processing Algorithm, at Salesforce Research. He called it Control to give the user more control about the AI generated process. He worked together with Kehlmann, as you can see the picture, to explore a novel mode of storytelling that integrates AI as a collaborator. In his own words, in Brian's own words, he says that AI storytelling really contributes to a broader narrative of how AI might be used as a tool for self-reflection, allowing us to investigate our language, our stories, our histories, ourselves, contextualize what it means, again, to be human in the upcoming revolution on artificial intelligence. So what drove me to this project is to investigate how creative, can we even call it, how creative an NLP algorithm can actually be? Can it inspire an artist to write a different type of literature, produce a different kind of art? Can it be collaborative? And if so, how? To which degree? Does it imagine? Does our language even suffice to describe an algorithm at that time? Or do we need a new vocabulary to describe artificial creativity? In essence, what I wanted to investigate is there a ghost in the machine? Ultimately, we were very lucky because that was a perfect match between art and tech. They really hit it off. We introduced them on Valentine's Day of 2020 and right before the outbreak of the pandemic. They embarked on a journey that fundamentally changed both of their ways of how they view technology. Here's a quick introductory video.
It was the most exciting day.
Brian's great.
It was a great idea to have him come here.
He has a great gift of explaining what he does.
So I learned things about short stories, I learned things about dialogue.
Learned how the algorithm actually works, what it does.
There was some moment of AI helping humans create meaningful experiences.
So they were also awarded an award during South by Southwest last year. So it really made a splash. However, I need to say that the outcome, like co-authoring a short story with an AI, has failed. So we did not succeed in that. That experiment was not successful. However, Kehlmann did publish a book called Mein Algorithmus und Ich, My Algorithm and I, about his experience collaborating with Control. That is such an incredibly funny read, so I recommend it to everyone. And one of the quotes is that really kind of sums up where we stand right now with artificial creativity. It's like talking to a lunatic who has lucid moments. And this is a little short paragraph of a demo version that we pioneered during South by Southwest. So Daniel Kehlmann is talking to an AI in real time. He starts by saying, I opened the garage and there was a dragon. The AI answered, it had been in my mind to put it on display at our house, but we decided that it would be better for him, Daniel responds, to leave him out there and give him food. Therefore, the AI answers, the dragon is very friendly with us. He will come up close enough for us to pet him. Daniel says, he also talks in his sleep. I don't understand his language. And the AI responds, we have 2 cats who are not afraid of him. They love playing with him. So clearly, at the moment, we're kind of dealing with the consciousness of a child, which for an artist of the caliber of Daniel Kehlmann is clearly not an interesting artistic quest, but completely bizarre and a very fun exploration of where we stand right now. This project was mutually beneficial for all the parties involved, including us as an office. It educated the artist on the potential of technology and how to interface with it. It educated an incredibly big audience, especially in the German-speaking world, but also here in Silicon Valley, on the potential of technology, but most importantly, the status quo of tech, where we actually are. It's most likely that today you have already read a piece of text that was generated by a natural language processing algorithm, because 60% of all texts are. And it clearly also educated, most importantly, the technologists to think differently about a tech tool that he or they are going to release to the market pretty soon, and how impactful that might be on our society. It really helped him reduce his blind spots. I want to encourage you to listen to this conversation that we had at the Deutsches Haus at NYU, the 3 of us, and it shows a live demo, and this tries to explore the question of the ghost in the machine. Real quick to wrap up my talk, we've already touched upon the question of how Artists can create new forms and formats and push humanity further by exploring like collaborative models with artificial creativity. And I'm still driven by this question of what can an AI teach us about being human, about our limitations of understanding our own existence. And one of that projects that pushes that even a little further is our very successful EU project here in Silicon Valley called The Grid. Our mantra is that art powers technology. It was founded in 2019 through the European National Institute of Culture Cluster in Silicon Valley that I presided for 2 years. I'm currently also the president of this project. And I curated its first festival called Exposure, Art, Tech, and Policy Days in 2020. And it's funny because Anya has already talked about this. Our topic was blurring borders, because that is omnipresent in every reality, in every piece of our work reality, for sure. So we really wanted to see, we already explored the promising proposition of pairing art and tech. And through the grid, we have widened our conversation to include a third silo, which is policymakers. Since we understand that the way that they operate is they truly impact tech development through regulatory frameworks. So they need to be part of this discussion. So while we do this, we pilot new formats to engage with different cultures and cultural contexts through cultural diplomacy and relations. It's leveraging what we call European art thinking through art, and introduce digital humanism, and tech development processes by a truly bottom-up approach, working with local artists and artists that we bring from Europe to engage with the tech industry. Briefly, what we've done so far is we set the tone very early on by really investigating and exploring what these companies actually need, identifying what kind of collaborative models would be possible, and then very clearly made a pitch on what the added value is for an artist so that they don't feel exploited by a tech giant, and what the added value would be for companies to engage with artists and let them be introduced in the sacrosanct R&D teams of their tech development. Those things are not, they might seem obvious to you, but they're highly complex and shielded by 1,000 firewalls of NDAs. So it's very, very complex to bring those two groups together. But our studies have shown over the last 2 years that it can be a very powerful proposition and beneficial for both parties involved. This is a little bit of a best of what we've done over the last 2.5 years.
And working here in Silicon Valley, the grid focuses on the intersection of art and tech. We want to bridge those two worlds. And as many of you might be able to attest to firsthand, artists and technologists, they don't always share the same reality or even language, or let's say same understanding of the world. But we see boundless potential in bringing these two groups together to create and to innovate alongside each other and to redefine what it means to be human in this day and age.
The real value of bringing us together as a cohort is something that I'm really looking forward to through this initiative. I have a lot of respect for everyone at the table here, for the work of Gray Area, for MUTEC, for Codame's work. And I think this is a really unique opportunity, to use the acronym, to bring us together and to do something that is distinct from what we are all doing individually.
We do actually want to go into a process of mutual listening and learning, and into a spirit of dialogue, and then come up together with activities and initiatives that make sense in a certain environment and context. And I think this is why we can have projects like the Grid.
This kind of conference and this event, well, it opens our eyes to what's possible, but also what our challenges are, what our opportunities are, where we're going, how we'll get there.
And over the last couple of years, we've seen a drastic shift in how citizens around the world experience their relationship to technology. Silicon Valley's universally lauded mantra to move fast and break things has run its course.
Addressing the crisis in technology, it starts with having different perspectives and reducing your blind spots.
I absolutely have to become a more artistically creative policymaker. I frankly had never considered that before, but I can certainly see how those worlds do intersect.
Innovation, however, needs collaboration. And the ability to identify such collaborations, to let them grow, to let them bloom is essential. And this is what the grid does. It creates a space for this conversation. It brings together the worlds of art, policy, and technology. And it brings, frankly, together people who normally would have never met each other under any other setting.
Well, and with that, I say thank you so much for listening. Get in touch. You can find my information there. And I look forward to the discussion.